At 1000 hours local time, somewhere in occupied Kharkiv Oblast, a Russian command post is checking telegram instead of radar screens. They have no idea that 100 kilometers away, a Ukrainian Su-27 is screaming toward them, about to deliver Ukraine's version of a Little Caesars hot and ready. While the mission is going according to plan so far, this would all change in a matter of seconds. A previously unknown Russia air defense system starts lighting up the Ukrainian jet. The Su-27's radar warning receiver explodes with alarms. X-band radiation is painting the aircraft from 300 kilometers away. The pilot slams the throttle forward while banking hard left. Twin AL-31F engines screaming at maximum power. The S-400's gravestone radar has found him. Its 2,500 electronic modules steering invisible beams through the sky without moving a single part. The 40 N-6E missile erupts from its launcher. 7.5 meters of bad news accelerating at Mach 14 in the time it takes to tie your shoes. Inside the S-400 command vehicle, operators watch track number 247, their designation for this particular Su-27, as the missile streaks toward the intercept point. The missile isn't chasing the plane. It's flying to where mathematics says the plane will be in 90 seconds. This is possible because of a thing called proportional navigation, the same math the quarterback uses when throwing to a receiver running downfield. The missile doesn't follow the aircraft's path like a dog chasing a car. Instead, it calculates the shortest route to an intercept point, like cutting across a parking lot instead of following the sidewalk. The S-400's computer solves this geometry problem 100 times per second, constantly updating where that magic meeting point will be based on the Su-27's current speed and heading. At 500 feet above Ukrainian farmland, the pilot dives toward a river valley, using Earth itself as armor. The planet's curvature creates a radar shadow the S-400 can't see through. At this range, the horizon blocks everything below 1,000 feet. The missile receives updates through its data link. Target last seen heading 300. Speed 200 meters per second. Altitude unknown. It's essentially flying blind, guided by probability rather than certainty. But the S-400's computer is learning his patterns. The Kalman filtering algorithms combine what the radar sees with physics predictions. Current speed and heading suggest where he'll be. Ukrainian tactics dictate he must pop up for weapons release. Previous missions show preferred routes. The system isn't just tracking, it's predicting, calculating exactly where this pilot will appear based on dozens of previous strikes. It's like knowing your wife's quick target run always ends in the home decor aisle. The missile does the same and adjusts course toward that predicted point, betting that physics beats human unpredictability. The pilot watches his threat display calculate time to impact while fuel gauges drop toward numbers he doesn't like. The detour to avoid the first missile already cost him 5 minutes of flight time. At low altitude, those AL-31F engines drink fuel at 300 kilograms per minute instead of the usual 120 at cruise altitude. Every second spent playing chicken with missiles is a second less for getting home. But how much fuel he has suddenly becomes the least of his concerns. The second S-400 battery lights up 350 kilometers away inside Russian territory. But this one isn't tracking, it's gambling. The 48 N-6DM missile launches toward empty sky, programmed to arrive where statistics say Ukrainian aircraft appear. The Russians have turned air defense into probability math, shooting at patterns instead of planes. This predictive barrage works because mission requirements create predictability. To release a JDAM-ER from maximum range requires specific altitude and speed. The bomb is basically a glider. It needs altitude to coast 70 kilometers to target, like how a paper airplane thrown from a tall building goes further than one thrown from the ground. The wings also need exactly the right airspeed to pop out properly. Too fast and they could break. Too slow and they won't lock in place. The sweet spot, 27,000 feet at 400 knots, appears in the Russian database dozens of times. They're betting this pilot will hit that same window because physics gives him no choice. The S-400 missile flies to its designated ambush point and waits. The seeker you see here, scanning empty sky like a predator watching a game trail. After 8 seconds of finding nothing, it self-destructs. 180 kilograms of explosive, creating a brief fireball that accomplishes nothing except warming some clouds. But the first S-400 hasn't given up. Its operators recalculated based on the Su-27's new trajectory, feeding updated intercept solutions into their remaining missiles. At 350 kilometers, even hypersonic missiles need time to arrive, time the pilot uses to disappear into terrain. The system's greatest strength, its extreme range, becomes a weakness when targets refuse to fly predictable paths. The pilot's deviation puts him directly in front of an S-300 battery positioned 80 kilometers away. Its grill pan radar is already tracking something interesting. The Su-27's own radar altimeter broadcasting, "I'm here," at 4.3 gigahertz 50 times per second. The pilot doesn't realize his safety system just became a homing beacon for missiles that are much, much closer. The S-300's 10,000 electronic eyes create pencil-thin beams that track with surgical precision. No rotating dish, just pure electronic steering that can follow a dozen targets while guiding missiles to half of them simultaneously. The radar operator watches the Su-27 weaving between hills, altitude varying between 200 and 800 feet as terrain permits. 2 9M82M missiles explode from their launchers. These aren't the S-400 strategic hammers. They're tactical scalpels designed for one thing: guaranteed hits inside 100 kilometers, according to the brochure. The missiles accelerate to Mach 7.5 using a boost sustain profile that saves fuel for the endgame when targets try their most desperate evasions. The pilot's threat warning system screams as command guidance beams paint his aircraft. This is SACG, Semi-Active Command Guidance, where a human operator literally flies the missile using a joystick while watching the target on screen. No computer to jam, no autonomous seeker to fool. Just a Russian with steady hands and bad intentions, guiding 480 kilograms of explosives towards you at 8 times the speed of sound. He dumps chaff while braking left toward a ridgeline. The aluminum strips bloom behind the aircraft, each one cut to exactly half the radar's wavelength, turning one Su-27 into what looks like a cloud of Su-27s. The first missile operator takes the bait, his crosshairs sliding onto the stronger return. But the second operator has done this before. He keeps his pipper on the original target, watching it accelerate toward that ridge. The pilot holds his nerve as the ground approaches at 200 meters per second. Pull up too early and the missile adjusts. Too late means game over. At exactly 300 meters out, he yanks back on the stick, pulling 6 Gs as the aircraft groans in protest. The maneuver puts distance between him and the guidance beam. The missile, suddenly blind, continues straight into the ground, adding a new crater to the Ukrainian landscape. But the celebration is premature. The pilot's defensive maneuvering has burned precious fuel and broadcast his position to every radar within 200 kilometers. The fuel gauge shows 58%, enough to complete the mission for now. But any more launches and he risks walking home. 3 more S-300 batteries unmask simultaneously, their radars creating interlocking fields of fire. The lead battery ripple fires 4 missiles in 2 seconds, each programmed for a different intercept angle. This is Soviet doctrine at its finest. Don't aim where the target is or where it's going, but put missiles everywhere it could possibly go. The guidance system makes these missiles particularly nasty. That human operator can see every move, predict every break, adjust for every countermeasure. He's playing the world's deadliest video game, except the target is real and there's no respawn. The pilot does something that would fail flight school but might save his life. Straight up maximum afterburner. The Zoom climb trades all his speed for altitude, rocketing from 500 to 3,500 feet in 4 seconds. The sudden vertical vector forces all 4 missiles to crane their necks skyward simultaneously. Their command beams cross and interfere, like 4 people trying to control the same TV remote. 2 missiles lose lock immediately, their receivers confused by conflicting signals. The third maintains lock but can't match the climb angle. It passes underneath by 200 meters, close enough to feel the heat, but not close enough to trigger its proximity fuse. The fourth missile has perfect position, but runs out of rocket fuel trying to match the vertical trajectory. It stalls 500 meters below, falling back to Earth like an expensive lawn dart before detonating. The maneuver saves his life, but costs all his reserve fuel. Making matters worse, on his threat display, 2 new contacts appear. Su-35 fighters vectoring in from 150 kilometers away, already painting him with their radars. The lead Su-35's Urbis-E radar achieves lock at maximum range. This isn't the mechanical scanning of older fighters. It's 1,772 electronic modules that can track 30 targets while engaging 8, all while the pilot sips coffee. The radar sees the Su-27 climbing through 20,000 feet, calculates its energy state, and realizes the target is slow, high, and out of options. The pilot selects an R-37M hypersonic missile. The missile uses a genius dual-pulse motor. First pulse sprints to Mach 6, then it coasts for 40 seconds to save fuel. Then the second pulse lights for the finishing blow. It's a lot like a boxer who rests between rounds, but still knocks you out in the end. The R-37M launches with the Su-27 still struggling toward release altitude. The missile doesn't need to see its target yet. Inertial guidance keeps it on course while data link updates arrive from the Su-35 10 times per second. Target bearing 180, range 140 kilometers, climbing through 24,000 feet. Only when it gets to within 20 kilometers will its own radar wake up, and by then it's usually too late. The Ukrainian pilot watches the time to impact counter drop while altitude slowly climbs. He needs 27,000 feet for optimal JDAM release. Any lower and the bomb might not reach the target. The missile will arrive in 45 seconds. He'll reach his release point in 40. The JDAM interface shows green lights. The bomb knows where it is, knows where it needs to go, and believes it can make the journey. The GPS receivers have already locked onto satellites. The wing deployment mechanism has passed self-test, and the fuse is ready to arm. All it needs is separation from the aircraft and 3.2 seconds to spread its wings. At 26,800 feet, with the R-37M closing at 2,000 meters per second, the pilot pickles the bomb. The JDAM-ER drops from the centerline pylon and immediately begins its transformation from dumb weight to smart weapon. Explosive bolts fire to release the wings. Springs push them outward against the airstream. Locks click into place with mechanical certainty. For 3.2 seconds, the pilot must hold steady despite every instinct screaming, "Evade!" Any sudden maneuver could damage those deploying wings or interrupt the GPS coordinate transfer. It's like waiting for Windows 98 to load while your house is on fire. The R-37M seeker activates at 18 kilometers, immediately finding the Su-27's huge radar signature. The missile calculates intercept geometry, while its 60-kilogram warhead arms for proximity detonation. It doesn't need a direct hit, just needs to get within 10 meters and fill the sky with hypersonic fragments. The JDAM finally clears. The pilot yanks the stick into his stomach while rolling inverted, pulling 9 Gs as chaff and flares bloom behind him like the 4th of July. The aircraft's fly-by-wire system prevents him from ripping the wings off, but just barely. The R-37M tries to follow, but can't generate enough lift in the thin air. It passes 100 meters overhead, close enough to see rivet patterns if anyone was counting. The proximity fuse detects the Su-27 and detonates. Fragments pepper the fuselage, punching holes that whistle in the airstream. The hydraulic pressure drops but stays in the green. The right-hand engine temperature spike but stabilize. The aircraft is wounded but flying. Behind him, invisible and irretrievable, the JDAM glides toward its date with a Russian command post. The JDAM-ER glides through the morning air at 280 kilometers per hour. Its wings locked in the perfect angle for maximum range. Inside its electronic brain, a battle rages between Russian jamming and American engineering. On the ground, a Russian Krasuka 4 system floods GPS frequencies with enough noise to make a rock concert sound like meditation. But the bomb has its own version of noise-canceling headphones. It switches from civilian GPS to military M-code, encrypted signals on different frequencies the Russians haven't prioritized. The signal is weak but readable, like hearing someone whisper at a party. Between GPS updates, the INS takes over. 3 spinning gyroscopes and accelerometers that know every twist and turn of the flight path. The system accumulates 5 meters of drift per minute, but GPS updates every 60 seconds to correct the error. 4 minutes into the glide, the jamming intensifies. GPS disappears completely. The bomb flies blind while INS error accumulates. After 45 seconds, drift reaches 20 meters, dangerous when the target building sits just 30 meters from identical structures. Then breakthrough. 4 satellites reacquired simultaneously. Position updated, error corrected. Back on track with 15 kilometers to go. The pilot, now diving for home at 100 feet altitude, will never know how close the mission came to failure. His fuel gauge shows 18%, just enough if he manages cruise settings and prays for tailwinds. Behind him, defensive systems still search, but he's below their radar horizon again, invisible in the ground clutter, which is exactly what his bomb will now be a part of. The JDAM's radar altimeter wakes up at 1,000 feet, pinging the ground 50 times per second to calculate height. The guidance computer runs the numbers: current altitude, forward speed, wind drift, target location. It needs 72 degrees impact angle, steep enough to penetrate but not so vertical it loses energy. The control surfaces adjust, trading forward speed for dive angle. 3 identical 9-story buildings appear below, each 30 meters from its neighbors. GPS says northernmost building, but one mistake means mission failure. The guidance system compares stored satellite imagery with current position. The target building has unique battle damage from previous fighting. Pattern match confirms. Correct target. 98% confidence. Final corrections for a 15-knot crosswind. Control surfaces tweak trajectory 2 degrees left. At 100 feet altitude, GPS provides one last update. Dead center, 3 meters from perfect. The radar altimeter counts down while the fuse arms for the 25 millisecond delay, enough to penetrate 3 floors before detonation. Impact. The JDAM punches through the roof at 94 meters per second, transiting the 9th floor in 8 milliseconds. 8th floor, another 8. 7th floor, then kaboom! 89 kilograms of explosive creates overpressure that exceeds structural load limits by a factor of 10. Support columns designed for vertical loads meet horizontal force. Physics wins. The building collapses in 4.3 seconds, falling straight down as each floor pancakes onto the one below. The adjacent